You are listening to The Deal with D and J. I'm your co-host, Shaker Pro. Alongside me, an all orange, the working man. Looks like a traffic cone. Nothing nice today about the fit. Um,
Nice. You don't like my Nashville hat?
I like the Nashville hat. I like the Nashville hat. That's DJ McCatherine on the other side. DJ, how are we doing? Let's do a small little. We got caught. We have football now. We're officially in football season. Let's talk a little bit about the weekend.
Right.
And then we'll go into some NFL predictions, kind of talk some ball, nothing crazy, get our MVPs in and our Super Bowl predictions in. Let's just kind of let's just talk ball. Let's just be boys, get the people what they kind of want a little bit here. DJ, did you I want to obviously what a great day of college football we had yesterday. Beautiful
Fantastic.
beautiful slate. The games were great. It's nice to see game day matter and see all the boys. Let's talk about the college game day location in the Notre Dame Texas A&M game. Uh, Texas A&M, that quarterback, his name, I think his name's Connor Waitman or Max Waitman, number 15. He's not a good quarterback. He struggled great against that Notre Dame defense. Threw two interceptions, struggled all game. Didn't really seem like he got everything clicking, and it seemed like the offense went away from Mike Elko's initial desires. Texas A&M defense did all that it could, but the Notre Dame running game with the mixture of their running backs and Riley Leonard just caused too many issues with some great play action and some great passes down the line, gave Notre Dame a win and a tough place to play in Kyle Field. DJ, did you have a chance to see that game?
I did not watch more than the first half. I ended up working this morning at 4 a.m. So I had to tap out. But I did see the first half. Both teams getting off to a rough and slow start. Um, that Connor Weidman, I mean, really struggling. I mean, 12 of 30, 100 yards is not a good day one day one stat line. Um, but he's under a new coach, a new scheme. I don't expect 12 for 30 for 100 yards to be his average stat line, you know. So there'll be improvements there. I like the head coach. It's brand new from Duke. I can't remember his
Elko,
name though.
Mike Elko.
Mike Elko. I liked him over at Duke. I think Texas A&M probably got him for a steal. Um, after paying Jimbo Fisher. So, I mean, I didn't get to see all the game. I saw the highlight. I saw Love's big run. Um, I believe that started the pull away for Notre Dame.
Yep.
Um, and that's all she wrote. I mean, Notre Dame off to a slow start too. Riley Leonard off to a still a slow start, but is just as dangerous as he
Yeah,
was at Duke on his feet.
he had those big moments, some fourth and ones where he
Hmm.
powered his way through. He had some good throws, had some great moments. Exactly really what Notre Dame kind of needs in a quarterback. They don't need a guy who, Sam Hartman was a little bit more of a gunslinger in the Notre
Hmm.
Dame offense. I think Riley Leonard's a guy who's going to execute your system really well.
Yeah.
DJ, let's talk about the next other big game, which was the Battle of Florida. Miami came into the swamp and fried up some gator meat. Billy Napier's seat is now officially hot. It is no longer
I don't.
warm.
I think it was hot before. I think now it's just burning.
Yeah, I think it's just
I
I
think
think
it's
it's
starting to
yeah.
smoke.
Yeah. It's
Hmm.
like I don't know how to describe it other
His
than
ass hairs are burning.
yeah. Like yeah, I don't really know how else to describe it other than this is fine meme where it's the dog sipping coffee and everything's on fire. That is currently the state of the football program. But I will say the bright spot is DJ Lagway. He looked good in his 2.5 drives. I will say it wasn't sexy, it wasn't pretty. The game was pretty much over. But DJ
Hmm.
Lagway showed Florida fans kind of what's to come. And unfortunately, depending on what happens with Graham Mertz and his injury, you could see DJ Lagway start week 2, and Graham Mertz may never get the starting job back if DJ Lagway fully takes control of the offense.
Right. So I saw his injury report come back as a concussion. So he will be in concussion protocol.
Yeah, so he'll
Um.
probably be out. for this
I
game
would
against Stanford.
assume
Yeah.
for extra safety precautions, if I was smart and I was Florida, I'd give the ball to Lagway against Samford. And then you really get to see what it's about.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like Graham Mertz was doing horrible, but he wasn't doing great, right? 11 of 20, 91 yards. It, it,
It
it's not
wasn't
the
so much.
same. It's not the same.
Yeah.
The offense didn't feel the same as it did last year. It is a different offense, but
I don't know
it,
if it's
it
better though.
not for the
I,
better.
I think Miami's I think Miami's versatility now on offense makes them very dangerous because with Tyler Van Dyke was a pocket passer, and that really doesn't work well in the Cristobal system coming from Oregon with the mobility of all the court. Now Cam Ward comes in, he has all this talent. And there was plenty of times where Cam Ward makes plays with his feet, rolling out of the pocket, extending plays, waiting for the extra guy to get open, outrunning D linemen, outrunning linebackers. Cam Ward has kind of established himself in a good case of a Heisman campaign potentially if the U is going to be officially back, hopefully for the first time since the 90s. So
I
I
mean
think it's an interesting.
That Florida defense looks as bad
It's bad,
as
dude.
it
It's
has
bad.
been. I didn't know that they were as bad as they were last year. I believe it was like 76th last year in defense
Florida,
for total yards given up.
Florida season last year got bailed out with some quality wins, like a win against Tennessee.
Bailed out.
Yeah, dude, that they were terrible last year.
Yeah, what do you mean bailed out?
You got bailed out. You got like you weren't supposed to be that good, and then you got some couple quality wins
They went
comparatively.
5-7.
Yeah, but you should have been like 3-10.
Oh my gosh. That's
Shouldn't have beat
wild.
Tennessee and all that good stuff. Anyways, like I don't know. I think Billy Napier's time in Florida is waning. I'd be shocked the kind of they got Samford next week. Do you have the Florida schedule pulled up?
I have yeah, give me like 3 seconds. Yeah, so they go to they play Samford,
Yep.
or they host Samford, they host Texas A&M, and then they're at Mississippi State.
I'll tell
So
you what.
this is the most important stretch that they have is these next 3 games before they host UCF and then they go into ranked play.
I'll tell you what. The chopping block for me, that UCF game, if it goes ugly and they lose that game, the chopping block on Billy Napier's coming down. Unless you think it's A&M, and if they get blown out by Elko,
I don't know. I mean, Texas A&M. Let's just see who Texas A&M plays next week.
they probably have a cupcake. Yeah,
I
they got
would.
McNeese.
Okay, so I mean, both of these teams look rather similar in their means of production in game one. So it's hard pressed to say that Texas A&M is going to be like the breaking point. But you got Mississippi State right there. You know,
Yeah.
I really think it could come down to how well are they going to play against Samford. You think 2 years ago Samford put up close to 50 points on the Gators?
Yeah, something like that. They came in guns blazing.
Yeah, and Sanford put up a heck of a fight on us. I want to say it was a Sunday game after a hurricane, but I could be off. But again, nonetheless, it was. I think depending on how your team shows back up next week would be great insight into the next 2 games, right? If Sanford plays well, I mean, you could. I I don't know. I don't know. Florida's in such a weird spot. Great recruiting class, but I don't know if it's worth it. And then what's the payout for Billy Napier going to be? I don't know.
Yeah, but the boosters can't like you fired Dan Mullen who took you to bowl games because he couldn't win the big one. Bringing a Saban guy, and he hasn't executed anything at all. He got gifted 1 year of a good Anthony Richardson. Then he takes Graham Mertz, who was never anything, and now he's in year 3 off to a bad start. We'll see what happens with Billy Napier. Kind of some quick hitters here. Clemson looks bad only because they went up against Georgia. Georgia just has so much talent and depth, and just veteran presence from the transfer portal and from the actual players that they've been bringing in as well. Clemson is Cade Klubnik. I don't know, man. I just I feel like
Not it, Chief.
The Cade Klubnik experiment is over. It's like the DJU experiment as well. As like he's not good either. Cade Klubnik's not good. Clemson, I think, is struggling. I think Dabo needs to get with the times and utilize his transfer portal. But until then, Clemson is because the thing is, Miami is here. They right now they can vie for this ACC championship, and heck, Georgia Tech could run the table now because they look good too. With the
Yeah,
big
they
win
do.
against Florida State, that can be a catalyst for what's potentially to come.
Right.
So, as I just want to touch upon that, and then let's touch upon a crazy upset, which was the dark horse of everyone's love in Virginia Tech getting all this love. And
Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt comes out with a sold out student crowd. Like they were turning students away from the game. Never thought you would ever say that about Vanderbilt. Going
I
to
think got
open,
a new stadium too, or stadium seating improvements.
yeah, they're still not done building it, but you go in.
Mm,
Virginia Tech should have just made easy work of Vanderbilt, and instead they got into a dogfight and lost in overtime. Shout out to Vanderbilt and Diego Pavis.
hmm
What a game. Great job by the Commodores, and it's time to anchor down in Nashville.
Right. I got a
Yeah.
quick hitter over here for you.
Go ahead.
It's not like a statement win or anything, but the Iowa Hawkeyes put up 40 points this weekend against the Illinois State Redbirds. I don't know if you heard me, Jacob. Iowa. Cade
Yeah,
McNamara in his like millionth season, 21 to
yeah.
31, 251 yards, three tutties.
Yeah, some other notable standouts. Colorado survives the upset bid from North Dakota State. Travis Hunter looked amazing. He put the team on his back with some crazy catches. Shador
hmm
made some good throws. Um, but the ref show at the end just that was bad for
I think
like
it
the
was
last
bad reffing throughout the whole game, from
they
what
were,
I.
but the last 30 seconds, like the clock was running and the head and one of the back judges wouldn't get off the ball, so the North Dakota couldn't snap and it ran off like 6 seconds. There was a clear,
Mm,
obvious targeting call that they missed. Things like that should have kind of favored North Dakota to get a little bit more closer to the end zone. But
yep.
Colorado survives the upset bid. Idaho gave Oregon a run for their money. Oregon like slung the ball all over the field. They had like over 400 yards of total offense, and they only had 24 points to show for it. Interesting stuff out of Eugene in that game. Ashton Janney, the running back from Boise State, video game numbers. Did you see this stat line, DJ?
Hit it out.
DJ, I want to make sure I get this stat line correct because it was pure, pure video game numbers. He had 267 yards on the ground with 6 touchdowns against Georgia Southern and a shootout game as well.
Wow.
So
I'll match your stat line. Teteroa McMillan, wide
yeah,
receiver out of Arizona, 10 receptions,
400
304
rushing
yards,
yards,
four tutties.
crazy stuff. And then the Missouri Tigers looked good, but Brady Cook needs to hit the deep ball
Ooh.
if they want to be a college football team. Because I was watching Ole Miss and the Missouri game, and the difference between Jackson Dart and Brady Cook is Jackson Dart is hitting the deep balls, Brady Cook is not, and that
Mm,
matters a lot. So
yeah.
those are some quick things from the weekend. Obviously, upcoming this Saturday, the big one, Texas versus Michigan. DJ, tell me a little bit about who do you like in that game, and then give me your pick.
I'll tell you, it's rather plain and simple. I'm going Texas.
Hmm.
Experience on both sides of the ball. Quinn Ewers is your quarterback. Um, the Wolverines late naming Davis Warren their starting quarterback for the Michigan Wolverines instead of Alex Orji, who well, looked like he was going to be the predecessor to JJ McCarthy. Um, they looked horrible in the air, only 121 yards total in the air, right? And then they did run pretty well on the ground, 148 yards. Donovan Edwards, though, really nowhere to be seen. 2.5 yards average on 11 carries. Michigan just didn't look good, and like Fresno State isn't your typical, like no name team, but then they're definitely not. I wouldn't even say that they're good, but that's a team that Michigan should have put up 45 points on, and the spread only being 20. I mean, I don't really like it.
Yeah, the
I
line
didn't
is
like.
the line for this game is Texas minus 6.5, over under 44.5. I like Texas to cover that. I don't think Michigan has a chance
No,
in they just don't look the same. I think
no.
Texas is just that much better. I think offensively, I think the swag and all that out of Michigan last year is just not there again this year. Like I said, I wasn't impressed with week one. Things can obviously change from week to week, but I'm not impressed with them.
Mm-mm.
Another matchup I kind of want to touch on because I also have Texas. Another matchup I kind of like that I feel like is a little bit of a dark horse, not in terms of a potential upset, but just with the way these programs are heading, is South Florida at Alabama. Where last year Alabama barely beat the Bulls. The Bulls are rising up with Alex Golich, and I love what the Bulls are doing. I love that game just to see where both programs are growing. And as well as we have the great matchup with Colorado and Nebraska. Both
But yeah.
you have all the hype in the world of the Colorado Buffaloes with the ruggedness of Nebraska with what they could potentially do, but they have a freshman QB. But the
Mm-hmm.
Colorado defense isn't very good. So like you got some things there. You got
Right.
Tennessee at NC State.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee, I love Nico. Nico looks great. He looks
Boy, he was
he looks
balling.
good. I don't think he's a Heisman contender this year, but he is definitely a Heisman contender next year. He
Mm-hmm.
looks so good unless Tennessee comes out of nowhere and really surprises us, especially if they upset Alabama in the third weekend in October. That's going to be impressive. So I like Nebraska because of the home field. I believe that game is at night. I mean, Nebraska at night's a tough place to play.
I mean,
They
95,000 strong.
Yeah, and then I like Tennessee to beat NC State. And then another little upset bid potentially, given what Oregon just did, is they have to now play Boise State.
Ooh.
And they
I will. Oregon is a team I had highlighted that I we can get into in the or dive into in another podcast, but uh, the struggle bus against Idaho.
yeah,
Idaho.
it just like Dylan Gabriel was 41 of 49, like 348 with four like in two touchdowns, and they barely beat Idaho. It's an interesting dynamic over there. Just kind of wanted to speed around those. We'll give our official picks and kind of previews on TikTok. If you want some more in-depth game stuff, but we have some business to attend to. Here, DJ, let's talk about the NFL. The NFL starts on Thursday. The
Yes,
reigning
sir.
Super Bowl champs, the Kansas City Chiefs, are taking on the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, and the whole 9 yards. DJ, let's just talk a little ball here. Let's talk a little bit about the moves we like, a little bit of teams we like, teams we think are going to take a back step, and let's just do a little bit of who's our seven playoff teams, and then give me a Super Bowl matchup and an MVP finalist, and that's going to be our NFL preview. DJ, go ahead and give me one of your favorite teams that you're higher on than most people are this season.
A team that I'm higher on than most people. See, that's tough. It seems like a lot of people have elevated their game this offseason. Like I think the AFC North is going to be just absolutely phenomenal this year, right? And so I think a team that I'm riding higher on than most people that's like kind of unpopular would be the Steelers, but I'm almost picking them to be last in their division. I think that's how good Pittsburgh's going to be. I know
I
it's like
don't.
a weird catch
I just I
22.
I want to jump in and just want to have a nice spicy argument. I think the Steelers are going to be terrible.
Why?
Why? Dude, it's
Hmm.
Russell Wilson's at the helm. They don't have a running back. They have no one to throw to. The offense is middling because Arthur Smith is the OC. And then what are you gonna do? Bank on your defense to win you 8, 9 games this year so that Tomlin can never be under 500 for the first time? That team is built terribly. The coaching staff is terrible. Like besides Tomlin, like they're all a bunch of bums. Not bums, but like Arthur Smith just got booted out of Atlanta because he had all this talent and he didn't use it. Now you're gonna give him less talent and expect him to do better with it? No. I'd be shocked if they go 500 again. They keep
Uh,
Tomlin's record intact. I'd be shocked.
I mean, Najee Harris was a 1,000 yard rusher last year.
Don't care. He's terrible.
And 1,000 yards is 1,000 yards. I mean, that's tough to do in the NFL, and it's not everybody that gets to do that. Say that they have done it. I think you you're banking you're not giving a lot for Russell Wilson, right? He's on a vet minimum, and you've got a good quarterback in CJ, or excuse me, Justin
Justin
Fields
Fields.
behind him. Um, and I think the O line's going to be good. It's going to be better than the Broncos had. Russell Wilson's not going to be scrambling as much, right? I
Yeah.
think both quarterbacks are more competent than Kenny Pickett, right? So I think there's some things to look up for. I mean, you still have Pickens out wide. You picked up Roman Wilson in the draft. You got Pat Fryermuth on as your tight end. He's a solid tight end, right? Very
Yeah.
good blocking. Has the catching ability. So I think there are some positives to look up on. Again, I'm not saying they're going to be great. I think I'm looking higher at them than most people are.
Looking
I'm not.
certainly
I'm
higher
not a
than me.
Steelers fan. I'm not even a Steelers fan. Um, but I mean, among teams that I think are going to make a leap from what they were last year and not to go as mainstream, like I'm riding high on the Jets, but I don't. I feel like that's not a hot take.
You've been riding high on the Jets the minute they got Aaron. Whoops. You've been riding high on the Jets since they had Aaron Rodgers.
Yep, and I think they're going to be great this year. But I mean, I don't really take that as a hot take.
I think for me, a team that I'm higher on than I think most people are. Oh man, it feel like I said. I don't think it's a hot take. I think this team's a kind of chalk, but I love what Atlanta did this offseason. I love what they did. You got Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix, who are competent quarterbacks, which is hard to say because I feel like Atlanta hasn't had a quarterback since Matt Ryan since he left. So I'm high on them. I love Drake London. I loved him as a prospect. I hated him and where he landed because they just didn't like there just wasn't anybody to throw him the ball. Now he does,
Right.
right? Bijan Robinson, we know what he's gonna do, right? And I think he's gonna be even better than he was last year. You also have Kyle Pitts, who I think will evolve to be somebody who's legit now because that's what Kirk Cousins does. Kirk Cousins takes everybody and elevates them. Wide receiver two on a Vikings offense was like you needed that in your fantasy football teams.
Wasn't he still like Adam Thielen?
Adam Thielen was producing. Jordan Addison produced last year. TJ Hawkinson, when with Kirk Cousins, was a touchdown target machine, right? So I'm really high on them. I love what they did in the offseason on defense. The secondary is strong. They added a pass rusher with Matthew Judon for giving up what a third round or a fifth round or something like that. Right. So you add some pass rushing. Now you have good linebackers. So I like where Atlanta is heading. I think, and the thing is, the NFC South is just so bad, right? Because
Yeah,
it's
that's true too.
Carolina. The Saints are just like disgusting. Like I hate Dennis Allen. I hate him so much, right? And New Orleans, well, like the Saints are kind of cool. I'm kind of over the whole Mercedes Benz and like they need something needs a change in New Orleans, right? And in Tampa, I mean Tampa, I think is still the favorite, But Tampa's not sexy either because Rashad White was an inefficient runner, but he was a pass catching beast.
Right.
So Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, the tight ends, right? They Tampa does it great as well. They have a great defense with Vita Vea up front. Baker Mayfield, I think, is going to do great things again because he just like Baker Mayfield knows how to win. But I like
Right.
Atlanta as long as Kirk Cousins is healthy. He can kind of do what he's always done. I like Atlanta a lot higher than I think most people can, and they have a real chance to win that division in Atlanta.
I love that. I forgot about what Atlanta has been doing,
They've been
or
sneaky,
what they did in the offseason
and
and really in the years prior, because none of their moves have really made sense
yeah,
until signing Kirk Cousins.
yeah.
So,
It hasn't been sexy. I like where they're moving. DJ, talk to me about a team that I guess that you're hating on a little bit more than other people. A team you don't like as much as other people. A team you think is going to take a big step back rather than a step forward.
oh my goodness gracious. That's another hard one because, like I said before, I think that a lot, if not all, the NFL teams seem like their game has been elevated, right? But I mean, a hot take would be the Saints, or a cold take would be the Saints. But I think a more hot take. Oh, all right, I've got two of them. Both teams are in Florida. We got the northernmost point in Florida and the southernmost point in Florida.
Don't you do it about my Jacksonville
I'm
Jaguars.
gonna do the Jaguars,
No,
man. I think,
that's how we met. How are you going to disrespect the place where we met in Jacksonville?
you
The
know,
birth of this podcast.
UNF for the win. Um,
No, no, you transferred out, boy. You weren't a
um,
real one. I was a real one.
whatever.
Osprey,
You're claiming our fame to Jacksonville, so
yeah.
claim it or not.
Well,
But
whatever math class that was back in summer B of 2018.
um, no, but I think the Jaguars. I don't. I'm just not confident in Trevor Lawrence. I'm not confident in the team. I think they've got talent around them, and I think they're giving Trevor Lawrence an opportunity to succeed. Um, but I just it's more of a gut feeling more than anything. And then on the other side of the ball, or on the other side of the state, I'm picking Miami to take a step back. I don't.
Mm, mm.
I think the hype is too much. I think there's too much hype there. I don't think they're going to live up to it.
I don't feel
I
like
know
they have
Tyree.
I don't feel like they have any hype. I feel like they're just right here. They're baseline. Because Tua is great in the months of September and October and then falls off at the end. I think the A chain train people they're a little too high on where the guy only like was healthy for like 7 to 8 games. So
Right.
I
But those are the teams that like really stick out to me. And then if I were to throw on, just to bring it back to the other side real quick, because I thought of one. I think Washington takes a big step forward this year. Um, Jaden Daniels being named the starting quarterback. Um, he's a dog, man. I mean, we could just roll through some tape of him and the type of competitor and he is, the toughness that he holds himself with. Um, and then the Commanders have some talent around them as well. Um, I just wanted to shout that team out. I think they're looking. I don't think they're going to be last, but I think they can make a run for the second place team in that division.
Yeah, I think a team for me that I see taking a step back is going to be the Houston Texans. Um, just
Oh,
just in the sense of I really wish they didn't get Stephon Diggs because he does not fit what Houston is building with Derek Stingley and Tank Dell, Nico, and CJ. You add Joe Mixon into the mix. I love that. I love that move. Right? You saw the Damian Pierce experiment didn't work. He just wasn't efficient. Joe Mixon, one thing about him is he's incredibly efficient, not sexy. I think everybody hates drafting Joe Mixon every year in fantasy football, but he's solid, which is what Houston needs to get the play action going and get CJ going. But I think Stephon Diggs is going to cause some issues that
mm.
I don't think Houston is ready for, right? I think
Hmm.
that's why the Bills kind of got rid of him is because he's not where the team is in the locker room, right? So I'm not as high on Houston because I do think, and again, I'm not gonna lie to you, I am a Vikings and a Jags fans for those wondering. Yes, I have two favorite teams. Get over it, cry about it. I don't really care. It's my life. I can root for who I want to. These two teams called me enough grief as it is. So, like, if you're gonna complain that I have two teams, at least it's these two, right? The Vikings and the Jags, right? There's nothing good going on there except when we came back on the Chargers.
Nobody's attacking you.
No, DJ, I just need to get this out because I've been attacked about this before. One of my fraternity brothers, he's a huge Dolphins fans, and he would give me so much crap. He's like, at least I like the city that I grew up in. And it's like, dude, I moved. The Rams left St. Louis. I'm not going to root for the Rams when they left my hometown. And I wasn't going to be a Bucks fan. Even though I really like the Bucks, I love the orange jerseys. I love where the Bucks are now. But when I grew up with the Bucks, I was watching Josh Freeman lose games and games be on blackout because the NFL sucked back then. So like I just couldn't get into the Bucks. So like just want to get that out there. Those are where my fandoms lie. Vikings and the Jags. But the reason why is because I do think this division is going to become more competitive than I think people are giving it credit for. Right? Will Levis has weapons in Tennessee. DeAndre Hopkins, right? They have the tight end whose name I'm never going to be able to pronounce. They added Calvin Ridley, Tajay Spears, Tony Pollard. The defense, we kind of have to see where that goes. But Tennessee is solid this year again, right? Now you're looking at the Colts. Get another year of Anthony Richardson. He's healthy. Jonathan Taylor. Shane Steichen is a great head coach, especially on the offensive side of the ball. You have Michael Pittman, A.D. Mitchell. You're adding these weapons. Jacksonville, I think, looks great. The only thing that gives me worry is obviously the defensive side of the ball, but they added Eric Armstead on the
Trevor
defensive line.
Lawrence.
Hold on. I'll get there, right? Right. They added Eric Armstead, who looks great on the defensive line. You still have Josh Hines Allen, or Allen's Hine. I can't remember which one it is. He added I think it's Hines Allen, right? You still have Trayvon Walker, who's still kind of panning out and developing more and more, right? You have a good linebacking core. You have a solid secondary because I know they addressed it in the offseason as well with, Campbell also being a presence in the secondary. And then on offense, Travis Etienne's really good. Evan Ingram's a touchdown machine. Brian Thomas Jr. looks amazing in Jags camp. Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis. You have the high, the low, the medium. You have all these different things that play. Parker Washington that they love as well there. Trevor Lawrence obviously is the key cog, but I love Trevor. I think offensively, he was dealing with some injuries last year. When he was healthy, he was slinging it, right? And the defensive side of the ball really let the Jags down last year, right? And for Trevor, some people like if you do a blind resume in the first couple season, Trevor either looks like Daniel Jones or he looks like Joe Burrow. Numbers wise, numbers, completion percentage, yardage, touchdown interception ratio. Look up some of the blind resumes. It's like you could do blind resumes all day long, and a lot of these quarterbacks are so similar nowadays. And Trevor has to be the franchise guy. He just has to be it. I don't think the Jags need another option. And I love where they're going. I mean, you add the offensive line looks really good, right? You're getting another couple years of these guys really staying in the system. And again, like I said, Trayvon, Armstead, Hines Allen up front, Campbell, Devin Lloyd's a great linebacker, Ronald Darby, Darnell Savage in the secondary. They added some those pieces, so I like Jacksonville. And to get back to Houston, sorry I went on a tangent, but to get back to Houston, I just think they kind of got hot at the right moment last year. You have another year, CJ Stroud, which I love. I mean, I love the head coach down there, in Houston as well. But again, Stephon Diggs gives me a ton of worry just with how he acts and how he behaves. I think he's going to cause a ton of issues on that side of the ball. And the secondary gives me a little bit of pause, but I'm not too worried about the secondary just because of who their head coach is. Um, so I'm further down on Houston than most people because they're taking on a first place schedule this year, right? You got to go play Buffalo. You got to take on Green Bay. That's going to be a really good game. You got to take on Detroit, Dallas, Kansas City, Miami, Baltimore. You look at the schedule, it's a tough one for the Texans comparatively to years past when they're playing that fourth place schedule. So that's why I'm a little bit lower on the Texans in my long winded expose. If DJ hasn't fallen asleep to my expose yet.
I don't know if anybody saw, but I've got those yawns coming in.
You know what? You can just tell me I'm boring. It's fine.
no, I mean, like I said, I mean, you mentioned like again the Titans and the Colts, and even some of the additions of the Jaguars, and it just reinforces what I said about people making and these teams making a lot of good moves, right? So,
I feel
but
like
it does just
I
putting it
feel
all
like this
together.
I feel like this year in the AFC side, I feel like there's a ton of toss-ups, right? Like we talked about the AFC North, and that looks like anybody can win it. If Joe Burrow stays, it's all about a bunch of what ifs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Joe Burrow stays healthy and Jamar Chase plays, the Bengals are a number one team. But then you have
Mm-hmm.
the Ravens, and if they do what they do and Derrick Henry takes them to the next level, right? Is that another step in them? We mentioned
Right.
Pittsburgh, and Tomlin's never been below 500, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have Cleveland,
What if
Deshaun,
Deshaun comes back
Deshaun,
healthy and
Amari,
slinging the ball?
Deshaun, Amari, right?
Joku
Njoku, Nick
Chubb
Chubb
might come
coming.
back this season.
Nick Chubb's gonna come back at some point in the year, right? And so, like, you look at it, and you're just like, you know, obviously, I forgot Jerry Judy's there as well.
Jared Judy, and then they got a defense that's top five in the league.
You
Yeah,
do.
I think the Cleveland Browns are the best built team in the league. They are just
Ooh.
the worst at putting it all together.
I I'm actually going to disagree with you that they're the best built team.
I think offensive line is sturdy. Their defensive line is sturdy. The linebacker room's solid. The You got David Njoku, like you said, Jared Judy, Amari Cooper out wide. If Deshaun Watson plays half as good as people think he is or could, that's a solid quarterback. Could be better than Baker when he was there at his best, right? And then you've got a secondary who's great too, led by Denzel Ward.
I don't know, man. For me personally, I just loved I will always love what Kansas City does on a roster building perspective. I think they have the best roster in the NFL, and I'm not saying that because they're the Super Bowl champs. I'm not saying that because they have Patrick Mahomes. It's just like I look on the defensive side of the ball. George Karlaftis,
Did they
Chris
get
Jones,
White in the offseason?
which White?
Devin from the Bucks.
No.
I'm
No,
trying
they
to,
did not.
I was trying to figure out where he went, but I don't remember.
Right? Like Karlaftis, Chris Jones, Tranquil was a huge. The linebacking core of Tranquil and Bolton was huge. And now you have the secondary of McDuffie, Justin Reed, Chamari Connor you're adding into the fold. Obviously, you lose a huge piece of it when you lose um Ladarius Sneed, or it's Legarius, I think, Legarius Sneed to Tennessee. But again, I just love and obviously you look on the offensive side of the ball. Mahomes, Pacheco, Kelsey, right? The wide receivers of Rice, Worthy, Hollywood Brown, if he can ever stay healthy. They added Juju Smith-Schuster, who I think isn't going to do anything, right? They got one of my Villanova guys, Jaron Hayek. Love him. He's a great, great player. But That's a deep dive. That's a deep, deep. And then you look on the offensive line, you have Sumatia, Tooney, Humphrey, Smith, Jawan Taylor. I mean, come on. That's a top O line right there. I do agree with you. Cleveland is probably one of the top teams that are built, but I don't think they're the best team built.
I know.
Defensive on the defensive side of the ball, I love them. Offensively, Jerry Judy's a huge question mark, and so is Elijah Moore. So that's kind of where I'm kind of seeing it.
Elijah Moore came from the Panthers.
Jets, I think. Jets.
Elijah Moore.
He wanted out of New York. So way back.
I'm I'm challenging that.
Promise you it's
Oh,
the Jets.
were it was the Jets. Attaboy.
Yo, stop. I need you to
Yeah.
stop questioning me like that. You need to stop questioning me like that, boy.
I know it's gotten bad.
DJ, let's go ahead and let's obviously we're not going to talk about the surprises or anything like that. Do you have any other teams that before we give our preview here of our top seven making the playoffs on both sides, Super Bowl MVP? Do you have any other teams that you really like? Because I'm gonna undercut you. Sorry about that. Shortstop, slide it. We're gonna turn two because I love the Chicago Bears and what they're going to do this upcoming year.
The family friendly podcast. This is a family friendly podcast.
DJ,
Tell me why, Jacob.
You already said Billy Napier's ass hair is on fire. This ain't a family friendly podcast anymore. When we start talking about certain teams you don't like, you just said, screw it, I'm a cuss. I like Chicago in the sense of I like what they did on defense last year, and they grew it. Offensively, they should be better. Swift, Odunze, Allen, Moore, Komet. You add Caleb Williams. Now, I'm not saying they're going to go compete and make the playoffs, but if the chips fall the way they may, because the NFC is kind of weak, right? You never know. On the AFC side of the ball, I can give you 11 to 12 teams that can make the playoffs. On the NFC side, I feel like there's only like the true seven and maybe two teams on the outside looking in. And I think the Bears are one of those teams on the outside looking in potentially.
No, I don't know if I've gotten hit underneath with this mudslide of support in favor of the Bears now.
I think it's Hard Knocks. Hard Knocks is doing a number on me, man. I watch Hard Knocks and I just go, this team's going to win the Super Bowl.
No, that's what they're supposed to do. But because
What
when
it's
reality
working.
hits, it's a hard knock life.
It's working. I'll
Um,
tell you what, kid.
the Bears situation is intriguing, right? Because they
Also,
gave
nice Annie reference, by the way. Way to sneak that in there.
um the Chicago Bears are interesting. We talk about all the pickups, we talk about the rave from the people on the outside looking in, and it's hard not to just end up in this scheme where you're not thinking about the Bears and what they have the possibility to do, right? You saw a couple of the crazy throws Caleb Williams made in his preseason games, and you're like, where did this come from? Right? Or you're not supposed to do that in the NFL, right? There's only one person that does that, and you are not him. And so when you start to look like him, a lot of question marks start to pop up. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's kind of a vague reference, but like I'm really at a toss up for the Bears. It's hard to believe that they're going to make such a big turnaround, right? But it's like, well, you can't deny the offseason like moves that they made.
I mean,
And
with Minnesota having Sam Darnold at the helm, like they're done. They're not making the playoffs because I think JJ was supposed to be the starter by like week 4 or 5. Like you have Darnold at the helm. Like the Vikings are going to be okay in that division. The Packers and the Lions are going to battle, right? And the Bears can make a noise against one of those teams, right? And then I look at the NFC South. I mean, it's going to be a one-team league in that regard potentially. I look at the NFC East. The Giants, as much as I love Malik Neighbors, The Giants look awful. Jaden Daniels is exciting, but there's just not enough there yet in Washington. And then you look at the NFC, uh, West, and I really only think Arizona and not Arizona. I really only think San Francisco and Los Angeles are the teams that can make it. And the Rams barely made it last year, and it's only because they got hot, right? Because they looked terrible to start the season. So when you kind of go into it a little bit more, because Arizona, while they have McBride and Connors and Kyler back and Marvin Harrison, right? The defense is still atrocious. And the Seattle side of the ball is that they're just old. DK's getting up there. Tyler Lockett's ancient. Kenneth Walk, they really don't have a running identity, and Geno is still the quarterback, and I don't think they're in love with Geno again. So that's just my thought process with Chicago of the NFC North is weak. You could get some games there. You could potentially sweep Minnesota. That's two games. You're going to get at least 4 to 5 other games, right? You're going to
Yeah.
upset a couple more teams. Like you could easily look at the Bears at 9-7 and not be surprised. So, DJ,
I'd be
without
surprised.
I wouldn't be. So, DJ, without further ado here, let's go ahead. Give me your 4 division winners and your 3 wildcard teams. Actually, you know what? Just give me your 4 division winners. I'm gonna give you my 4. DJ, I'm just making the stuff up. All right. I'm just trying here. All right. It's been a rough couple days for me. I'm just trying to have fun. Give me your 4 division winners.
All right.
And then we'll go.
In which
Sorry,
side?
DJ.
Which side?
What the DJ?
Which conference?
Let's go AFC first.
Okay. Got the Jets.
Love it.
Got the Ravens.
Love it.
Got the Texans. I got the Chiefs.
Love it. Want to dive into Talk to me about the Jets. Why are you so high on the Jets? Because I'm not. Like,
Uh,
I know you love the defense, and I know you love Garrett Wilson and Brees Hall, but why do you love the Jets so much more than those other teams in that division?
I really think that the Jets and what they did last year, I mean, in game one, I believe they played Buffalo in Buffalo, right? No, it was in
MetLife.
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 Okay. So excuse me. Um, Even when Aaron Rodgers went down, they played the Bills and they ended up winning, right? Um, but I think Aaron Rodgers has this ability about him that changes the dynamic of a team, right? I don't think anybody needs any more proof from the defense, right?
It's legit.
It's
It's
there.
legit. It's
It kept
legit.
them close last year. And I think that's amazing to say as big of a catastrophe as their offense was. Their defense kept Jets fans probably hopeful through 3 quarters. And then you throw an Aaron Rodgers in. I don't see where you don't I don't see where somebody can look at the Jets and see Aaron Rodgers. Again, this is all if he stays healthy, right? If he stays healthy. But to judge Aaron Rodgers' ability, I think it's foolish. And I think that team is just going to elevate so much. I really do pick them to be the winner. And I think he
Yeah.
likes his targets too, and I think that's a big thing. I think he likes who he's throwing to. I think he likes the place where he's at. So I think you get a Zen Aaron Rodgers, and the league is doomed.
Yeah, I think for me, until I see it, I'm going Buffalo.
And that's fine. It
I'm gonna
really is, but
I'm gonna go Buffalo. I'm gonna go the Ravens as well. I'm gonna go the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I'm gonna go the Kansas City Chiefs. Um, Again with the Bills, I just love Josh Allen. I think it's hard to undercut him. I think it's hard to get him out. I think Joe Brady is going to change his offensive philosophy because when Joe Brady took over as the OC, they made Josh throw a lot less. And when you throw a lot less, your completion percentage goes down because the reason why Josh Allen was doing so well completion wise It's because he had to throw it 40 times a game. Now he's throwing it less. So with the natural decrease, you're going to drop in that. Now, granted, he was throwing like 59, 62%, whatever it is. I think it's going to improve with Joe Brady now, full
Mm,
off season. I love
okay.
James Cook. Dalton Kincaid's going to be huge for them,
Yeah,
right?
yes.
I think Shakur and Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman, I think people are just not giving enough love. He's going to be a red zone threat. He's 6'4", big body, has great hands. Josh Allen's going to feed you. He's not going to be Stephon Diggs, but he's going to feed you. All right. So I like where the Bills are defensively. It worries me, especially when they go up against, a healthy Jets team and a healthy Miami team. It worries me a little bit just with the way it's moving with them. So, I like the Bills to win it, but I'm not, exactly comfortable in that division as well. Right. Love the Ravens. I think they just like Lamar being who he is. I just can't doubt. And until I can see the reason why I'm not picking the Bengals, because I love Joe Burrow and I love the Bengals offensively more than Baltimore, is because I don't know what's going on with Jamar Chase. I just don't. He's not practicing. He's holding out for the contract. I'm not sure what is going on in Cincinnati. They paid T. Higgins, right? But Joe Burrow's coming off, that wrist injury. And, you know, even though Slim Shady's in Cincinnati this year, I still like Baltimore a lot more than other people. I think they just know it better. Um, Jacksonville, for all the reasons I mentioned before, in Kansas City. I mean, who out of that division is going to beat them? Denver. Bo Nix, though, believe in Bo
Oh,
Mania. Believe in Bo Mania. But
yeah,
it's,
I've been on Bowmania since the draft.
yeah, Bo Mania's there. But Vegas is going to cause some noise because I love Antonio Pierce as a coach, but LA is going to be really bad this year. I think they're going to be terrible. They're going to be terrible.
Yeah, I
In year one of Harbaugh, I think they have another top 10 pick. They're going to be that bad. Potentially a top 5 pick. But
I mean, just with the AFC and how it's built, I
yeah.
mean, be
DJ, who
hard.
are who are your three wild card teams then in the AFC before we jump?
My quick impulse. Ooh, oh, quick impulse. Oh, see, now you threw Jamar Chase in there, and it's really throwing a wrench into things. Um, if Jamar Chase plays, Browns, Bengals, Bills. If he doesn't, I'm going Browns, Bills, Jags. I think Jamar Chase, if he plays, I think the Bengals will be in there. I think they'll keep it close. I think that whole division in the AFC North is going to be close. In total, I can definitely see what is it, 18 games now?
Yep.
17, 18 games.
17 games, 18 weeks.
So 17 games. I can see Baltimore going 11-6. You know, Cincinnati or Cleveland going 9-8 and 10-7. I think the division could be within 2 games of each other. Um, and I like the Bills. I do. I'm just my prayers are in Aaron Rodgers and like I said, I like the Cleveland Browns. I like what they've got over there. I am taking a leap with Deshaun Watson being the player. I mean, hell, he's had 3 years to one, get healthy, and two, get acclimated with the team, or 2 years. So one would hope if you're going to spend $240 million on the kid that
He's going to pan out.
yeah, at least somewhat decently. Um, and then, like I said, Jacksonville did make a ton of moves. Like that's a tough division, and I think it's going to be a two-man race towards the top. But I mean, compared to some of these other teams, I do like teams better than the Jaguars. Um, but there are some key factors in there. I think Miami falls short. I am just picking them as my flop. Um, And I think that's really what I got.
Yeah, my three wild card teams, I'm gonna go with the Texans. I'm gonna go with the Jets, and then I'm going to stay with the Bengals. I think Jamar Chase will have a contract at some point. Um, so I like that. This is barring everybody stays healthy, everything does what it's supposed to. I
So
like again
Jamar doesn't play. What do you say?
if Jamar sits out the whole year, which would be shocking to me, but if Jamar is to sit out, I mean, I can see. I'm gonna go with it because I think that I really do believe in Shane Steichen. I think the Colts could slip in out of the AFC South.
Ooh.
I just
Wow.
Miami just starts so hot, and then when they play good team, like it was the same thing last year. They were what 1-7 against the top teams that had a winning record. Like they beat up on the teams who suck, but when they play good teams, they don't do anything. And like for me now, it all falls on Tua. I'm over the def. It's all on Tua. You have Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, arguably a top three wide receiver duo in the NFL, right? Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert, Jalen Wright. Mike McDaniel is a great head coach. Defensively, they can do some things at times. It's all there for Tua. Just depends if he can put it together. I like Anthony Richardson. I like what his wide receivers. I like the upside. I like the run game with Jonathan Taylor and the O line. So I like the Colts to replace the Bengals if Jamar is to sit out like the whole year. But those are my teams are the Jets, Bengals, and the um I had it on tip of my tongue and I forgot them. Jets, Bengals,
Texans.
Texans. There we go.
All right.
Let's jump
Let's
over
start
to the
with
NFC NFC
Yeah,
side.
you go.
My four division winners, I'm going to go with the Eagles. I'm going to go with the Lions. Going to go with the I'm going to go with the Falcons.
Woohoo! Switch up.
And then Niners are going to come out of the NFC West. Again
Um,
with the Falcons, same things as mentioned before. That division is so weak; it's up to anybody. So I think they find a way.
yeah, it's an interesting conference this year. I like all your picks except for the South pick. I'm gonna go with the Bucks over the Falcons, and I'm still gonna stick with the 49ers. Um, 49ers, Detroit, and Philly. And then for the wild card teams, I think it is where it gets real interesting. I'm gonna go with the Rams to make a wild card spot. I'm gonna go with the Falcons, and I'm gonna go Green Bay.
So you're leaving out a team out of the NFC West, and you think the Cowboys are going to miss the playoffs?
Yes.
Wow, talk to me about that.
I don't like the the team dynamic coming into the season. I know that they've got CeeDee Lamb figured out thus far, and they're waiting for Dak. But I I like these teams better. I think Detroit's a solid team. I like Green Bay. Green Bay is Dallas's kryptonite, and unfortunately, you won't see the kryptonite in a playoff game this year. Um, But like the what you mentioned with Atlanta, like I said, I completely forgot about all the moves that Atlanta made. And so I like Kirk Cousins, um, in the position that he's at right now. And I was hard pressed. Like I said, the Commanders will make a push for that third place. Or for that second place spot. I'm not so confident that the Dallas Cowboys won't be the third team in that division. So.
Hmm.
Um, it's a lot more upside on the Commanders than it is a downside for the Cowboys. Um, but I just think that there's been a too much talk, and I think part of it's Jerry Jones and his delusional self getting in front of the media. that could be influencing a dynamic that has nothing to do with him, except for the fact that he's paying their paychecks. Um, but right now, I'm a little bit higher on the ability for the Rams, excuse me, the ability of the Falcons than I am on the Cowboys. And then I just like the Rams. I like Sean McVay. I like Stafford out there. I think that team stays solid and they stay in a wild card spot. Ever since their Super Bowl run, they've been they've been kind of that team that just kind of sits there, rides that wild card line, and I'm not willing to bet against them. And then Green Bay is Green Bay. I think Jordan Love, it's his year um, to have a monster season, and they'll fall just short of the Lions. It'll be a one game race. It'll come down to a tiebreaker.
Like a
You
week
know,
15 matchup.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So
My three teams going to be the Cowboys, Packers, and the Rams. Again, I think the Cowboys just have too much talent to in the NFC to like the way I look at it, the only real toss up for like the final wild card spot is gonna be like the Bucks, the Rams, or the Falcons, depending on who wins the NFC South, right? I think the Packers and the Cowboys, barring crazy injuries to their quarterbacks, are gonna be just fine. CD being there is gonna matter a ton. I think the run game for Dallas is gonna be fine, and defensively they're gonna do what they do best. It's a Mike McCarthy make or break year, honestly. The Rams, healthy Cooper Kupp, healthy Stafford, great weapons on offense. No Aaron Donald, though, on the defensive side of the ball, but they, still made the playoffs last year.
right,
Excuse me. Whoa. And then again with the Packers, like you said, it's Jordan Love's time. Defensively, they always do really well in the back half of the year. And I mean, obviously, looking at a new Josh Jacobs, Tucker Kraft, Musgrave, I mean, Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, Christian Watson, really, really good wide receivers for Jordan Love.
hmm
Um, so I like them simply because the Bears aren't ready. They could be the dark horse. I love them as a dark horse, you know.
yep,
Um, but Minnesota's not going to do anything. The Commanders and the Giants aren't going to do anything. I mean, Arizona, Seattle's not going to do anything, right? I mean, maybe maybe the Saints do something, but it's like nudging them with a stick to do something. So it's pretty chalk. I like them all to make it. So I like the Cowboys, Packers, and the Rams to make it, and only one team out of the NFC South will make it. So, DJ, with that being said, who's your Super Bowl matchup? You don't got to give me a winner. I just want the matchup. Unless you want to give me a winner, you can be cool like that.
I'm hard pressed for two teams coming out of the NFC, and I'm pretty set on the Jets making it in the AFC. So I'm gonna go. mm, I'll tell you the two teams that I'm tossed up against in the NFC. I'm tossed up between the 49ers and the Green Bay Packers. Um,
Woo-hoo-hoo.
I think those are the two best teams coming out of the NFC. I think I don't think I can bet against San Francisco coming out of the NFC. I really like San Fran. I like the team that they built. It's solid on both sides of the ball. McCaffrey, they just signed Ayuk, Ayuk back. They have who was their other wide receiver? Oh my gosh,
Debo.
Debo Samuel, um, returning, and then you've got the defensive side of the ball led by Nick Bosa on that side, and then if Brock, um, oh my gosh,
Purdy.
Brock Purdy, thank you. If Brock Purdy comes back and does what he's been doing the last 2 years, I mean, why on earth would you bet against them? And George Kittle hopefully stays healthy this year. It's a that might be actually the most perfectly built team. Um, they did lose Eric Armstead, I believe, was on that defensive line, so it'll be interesting to see how they fill that gap. But I think they've got more than enough talent to do so.
Yeah. My Super Bowl matchup was the one I wanted to see last year. I think I'm gonna get it this year. Um, it's not so much I want to bet against the Chiefs. It's as I mean, we haven't seen a team go to three straight Super Bowls since the Bills, I think, or the Patriots, I think. One of those two teams, I think it was the Patriots and the Eagles stopped the three-peat, I believe. I mean, the more
You just
I
got to
was gonna
spit it
talk.
out. The more you think about it, the
The
worse
more I
it
think about
gets.
it, I'm switching up a little bit here. I'm gonna go Kansas City out of the AFC.
Ooh,
I
you were
think
gonna go
that
with the Ravens, weren't you?
I was I was gonna go with the Ravens, but the way I just see it, Pat Mahomes in the playoffs is next level. The roster is better than it was last year. I mean, who's gonna stop them, honestly, right?
Right.
Back to back. Now you're gonna go to your third Super Bowl in the last 5 years or 4 years, whatever it is. Um, then out of the NFC, again, dude, I just want the Lions to get there. I
I
would
want them
love
to.
I would love it that the Honolulu Blue. I love the idea of it. Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, the redemption arc for Jared Goff, because the last time he was in a Super Bowl, he only put up 3 points on offense.
Right.
Amon
That was a
Ra,
miserable game.
it was Amon Ra, right? You're looking at Amon Ra St. Brown and um, you know, gosh, Jamison Williams and Jameer Gibbs, David Montgomery, Sam Laporta. The defense is good with Aiden Hutchinson. So I'm high on the
CJ
Lions.
Gardner Johnson over there in the
Yeah,
secondary too, right?
yeah. So for me, that's where my head's at. I like the Lions. I had to go against the Lions. Like I think it's probably like it's hard to go against the Niners, but Kyle Shanahan always like has a way of just like messing it up somewhere. He's good in the playoffs and sometimes
The
he's not.
49ers this past year, right? Or is it the
Yeah.
Eagles?
It was the 49ers.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go Chiefs Lions. That's who I'm gonna go with. That's who I like as my Super Bowl prediction. And yeah. DJ, last little tidbit, food for thought for the fans out there. Give me your MVP of the season, and we'll wrap it up.
Oh, so another two-man race. I think it's going to be between Jared Goff and Jordan Love in the NFC North or for the NFC. There's two MVPs, right? Or is there
Uh,
just one?
just one.
Oh,
There's
okay.
Yeah, just
I'm
one.
still going to pick those two, but I thought there was one per conference, and that's offensive and defensive go by conference. My MVP. Ooh, I'm gonna go with my initial gut, but I'm not confident about it in the head. I'm gonna go Jordan Love, uh, winning his MVP. Like I said, and like even you said, this is his year, man. I think coming off of last year, he got the ropes figured out, right? And he's gonna start this climb, and he's gonna know how to navigate it. Um, so I'm not confident in the head, but it was my first gut instinct. I like the pick. I like him to be better than he was last year. Um,
Yes, according to Vegas Insider, Jordan Love is at 14 plus 1400
I-
plus 1400 to win MVP.
okay, who's ahead of him?
CJ Stroud, Hurts, Burrow, Allen,